It was 1999, and I was about 14, 15 years old back then, and I went and saw a movie with a buddy of mine called The Matrix. The Matrix. So I don't know how I got in the theater because that movie was rated R. I didn't remember it being rated R, but I looked it up yesterday. I was like, oh, how did I do that? Amazing. But saw this movie, The Matrix. It is kind of a ridiculous but amazing, fully 195% sci-fi. So if that's not your thing and you haven't seen it yet, you're okay. Don't go see it. You won't enjoy it. But it's ridiculous, really. It's set in the future where there's a war between humans and the machines that have taken over. And humanity is enslaved by the machines, and a small band of freedom fighters help break out all of the captive, enslaved humans from this illusionary world called the Matrix that they're stuck in. I know, it sounds really ridiculous. I know, I'm saying it and I hear it too. It's crazy. I watched. I paid money for that and the 2 sequels. Anyway, but there's this guy named Morpheus who believes in a prophecy that this one guy named Neo will become a chosen one who will save them all. He'll end the war, all these things. So they've broken him out. They've broken him out of the Matrix. He has been woken up from that false reality. And now Morpheus is setting about the task of helping him to become free from what he used to think was true, free from how life used to be. You see, once you've been freed from the Matrix, you can now run faster, jump higher. You can do kung fu. You can actually download things into your brain. You can do all kinds of amazing stuff. There's all these awesome things that can happen. And so he's going through this training session, and Morpheus says to him, I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through. He says, let all go. Fear, doubt, disbelief. Free your mind. And then Morpheus proceeds to run across the rooftop of a building, and then he jumps across a full street onto a building like forever over there and lands it and turns around and says, all right, let's go. It's a crazy, crazy movie. And if you're taking notes today, I recommend that you do. Not because my words are so great, but because I believe that God might have something specifically for your life that you want to remember past this moment, or God has something not for your life, but for someone you know. So it's always good to write down some notes and capture something, because it might not be for you, but it might be for someone else. But if you're needing a title for this message, the title is Free Your Mind. I think a lot of us kind of sit in the same place that Neo was sitting in. We've been freed, but we're not fully quite there yet. We're not fully quite there yet. Maybe you and I have given our hearts to Jesus. We've raised our hand or put our hand on our heart in one of those moments where someone's preaching and giving us an opportunity. We've said, Jesus, I want you to fill my life. Jesus, I want you to lead me. Jesus, I want you to have your way. I want to stop messing around and doing all those dumb things, and I want to follow you. We've had this moment. We've felt the presence of God. We've had an encounter with Jesus. But some way, somehow, when we start hearing about the freedom that Jesus bought for us, when we start hearing about the healing and the abundant life and all of these things that Jesus promises, when we start hearing those things, we know the moment that we had, but our current experience doesn't quite match up to what we believe. I think that's where a lot of us stand today. We've been rescued by Jesus, but we still struggle with different addictions. We still have all these mental hurdles that are always tearing us down. Maybe it's a depression. Or maybe it's just a line of thinking that was passed down to you from parents who did not know how to parent well and who crushed you or cut you with their words. And now it's a wound that's been playing over and over in your mind, changing the way that you see yourself and you see others. So many of us have all of these issues that slow us down and stop us from really living what we were meant to live. What happens is we have these hurdles, we have these places that we're wrestling with in our mind, and they actually put a lid on your life. They put a lid on your faith life. You believe, but you can't quite get there all the way because of that thing that's in your mind, that lie that you've bought into, that thing that you're struggling with. You believe, but you're not actually living free. You've received the freedom that Christ bought for you, but you're not actually walking it out just yet. We believe it, but we don't yet see it. A professor at ORU once talked about orthodoxy and orthopraxy. He said that orthodoxy basically means right believing, right thinking. And orthopraxy was more right doing, right practice. And he said that if you don't have right thinking, right believing, then you will never have right doing and right practice. And I believe that when you're not believing rightly, when you're not thinking rightly, when you're what's going on in your mind, how you see the world, how you understand things does not line up with what Jesus has spoken over you, I believe that if those two things are not in line, that you will never be able to step into the freedom God has given you. You'll never be able to step into the life that God has designed you for. You wind up stuck with low expectations for this life of faith, low expectations for what God can do in your life. And then I run across this verse, Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Oftentimes we hear a verse like this, and what resounds in us is the last piece. You will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. But we miss the part that comes before. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. You think, church, I believe that we still need our minds transformed today. I believe that we still have some places inside of our minds and inside of our hearts that need God's special work to be unleashed in us so that we can understand what we're meant for, so that we can live out who we're supposed to really be. I think that once you free your mind, the rest will follow. Someone in here recognized that from the 90s. Praise you there. I praise you that. Well, that was an awesome one. I thought about singing it, but I thought it was too much for this sermon. Actually, no, okay. I'm not going to do it. Free your mind. Okay, there we go. I got one. Come on, girl. I got you. I appreciate that. Thank you for going with me there. That's not the sermon. That's not the sermon. I believe that when we allow God to transform the way that we think, He will actually lift those lids off of our life. Those lids that say that you'll never be this. That you'll never be past this place. You'll always struggle with this. You'll always fall this way. You'll always fail. That could never be your life because you're too stained. You're too dirty, even on this side of what Jesus has done for you. I believe when we get our minds right, everything else is going to follow. Because when Jesus set us free, we're free in Jesus' name. We're really free. We're not halfway free, but we're fully free. But our minds, they need some change. This message today is not for any of us who think that we're perfect, but for all of us who know exactly, specifically, just how broken and jacked up we are. Those of us who know that we struggle, that every day I'm not as good as I want to be, that I don't talk to my wife in the respectful way that I want to all the time, that I don't lean into my kids the way that I need to all the time, that at my job I wish I was always giving it 100%, but there's this part in my mind that says that even if you try, you'll fail, so I don't try. I'm talking to those people today that are struggling, that are in the middle of the fight. I'm talking to you. If you're here, and that's you today, I think God is going to do something in your life this morning. Romans chapter 8, verse 12. Therefore, dear brothers and sisters, you have no obligation to do what your sinful nature urges you to do. I remember the first time that I ever got on a roller coaster. It was at like Busch Gardens, and I don't even know how old I was, but I hopped on this thing called like the Wolf Pack, the Wolf something or other. I don't know. There was a wolf involved. There's a big picture of a scary wolf. And that wasn't what bothered me. You see, as soon as I stepped into the line, the fear hit. I was like, I have never done this before. but I'm probably going to die today. That's what I was thinking inside of myself. You get in that line, and it's so long. Sometimes you're waiting for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour just to get on this ride. But as you are waiting, that stress was just building in my chest. Like, oh God, I don't even know. Why are we in this line? I don't even know. Why did I say yes? Why did I say yes? This girl's cute. She's next to me. She's cute. But why am I still in this line? I don't know. Why am I still here? And it built and built and built. I got so stressed out. I remember feeling a weird tingling up my left arm. Generally, that's what you associate with someone about to have a heart attack. It was not a good place for me to be in, and I felt that the whole way to the end of the line. But then you get there, and it's your turn. You're in that little area where the roller coaster comes in. People hop out one side. You start moving forward to get in next. I was thinking, it's like, man, I do not want to do this. This is foolishness. Why would anyone want to do this? Throw myself around on this mechanical who's a what's it and just fling out into space and die? Why would I want that for my life? But that girl, though, was real cute. And if I chicken out now, as any, 14, 10, I don't know how old I was, any dumb young man would do, you'll do stupid things when there are ladies involved. And so I was like, I'm going to get in there. I hop in that chair. I'm like, okay, expecting this is a roller coaster. We're shooting around space. They're going to have me like harnessed in with chains and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then there's this weird like aluminum tube with some padding and like a seat belt. And that clicks in. I'm like, this is it. This was the end of my life, right? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna die. She's still cute, but I'm gonna die. And I've got. Have I lived a good life? I don't even know. What's a good life? And I'm freaking out, thinking that it's final now. I'm locked in. There's no moving back. There's no going back. There's the pressure of what all those people are thinking, and I'm not gonna be able to move from here. But in truth, if I would have lost my mind for a minute, anyone can get out at that point. You just start screaming, no! I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. God, don't make me do it. If you start making a fool in a moment like that, even if they say you can't get out, the young teenager who's running that machine, why is there a young teenager running that machine? I don't know. I believe in you guys, but still, no. They will let you out and you'll be able to move on. But I was thinking about that nonsense. I was thinking about that and how I know that there are people in here that have struggled. Not just a little, but for a long time. Your struggle hasn't been 5 minutes. It's been maybe 5 months, 5 years, 15 years. Some of us have struggled for decades and decades with the same issue of sin, with the same broken thinking, with the same heart condition that stops us from seeing people rightly. Some of us have wrestled with these things for so long. We've made a little bit of progress, but then we've stumbled again. We've made some more progress, but then we've stumbled. We've had this pattern of falling and falling, getting up and falling, getting up and falling, getting up and falling. And once you have that for so long, it gets in your mind that it's just going to happen again. You believe in Jesus. You believe what the Bible says, but you just feel like, I don't know how long I'm going to last this time, but I know it's coming. I know it's going to hit. It always hits this certain day of the week. It always hits when the stress is high. There's this mode that we get into where we feel like it's inevitable. And I'm here to tell you this morning that it is not inevitable. You have no obligation to follow what the sinful nature tells you to do. You have no obligation to step into that. What I am saying is that because of what Jesus has done in your life, the chain of you're stuck in this, you'll always be in this, that has been shattered and broken for your life. That is the truth that Jesus speaks over you. It may look dark. It may look like you'll never get out. But the power of God to deliver you is bigger than your ability to stay in your sin, your ability to stay in your brokenness, your ability to believe in those lies. What God has done for you is bigger than that. And then I think about John 8:36 that says, so if the Son sets you free, you are truly free. And the question then needs to be, free to what? Free, what does that mean? What am I free to do now? I'm still facing this issue, so I can't be that free. So what does that even mean? Free to what? What God has done for you is He has made you free to choose. You see, He has broken off the chains. He has kicked open the door on that habit, on that addiction, and He gives us the ability to choose. You see, before Jesus came into our life, before we knew anything about that hope, we were locked in a place that we could never escape. We were locked in a brokenness that we could never find freedom from. But since Jesus came, gave everything for our sake, that being a fact in our life of only brokenness, only pain, only confusion, that is broken. But now we can choose. Because God doesn't force us to do anything. But he will break open that door and say, hey, if you want freedom, start walking. If you want to live free, start moving. If you want to move on from this place, start going. Hand in hand, you and I, we can do this. Let's go. That's what God says to you. You are not obligated. You are not locked in. You are not stuck in that pit. If it feels like it, that's okay. Feelings lie. But the truth of God is bigger than those lies. The truth of God is bigger than those feelings. You feel like it's inevitable, but it's not. You feel like you're going to slip back in. It's a foregone conclusion, but it's not. There is freedom, real hope, and real life. In Deuteronomy, God says, I have set before you life and death, so choose life. So church, let's remember that when it comes to our struggle, when it comes to the hurdles that we face, when it comes to the broken thinking that we are stuck in, there is always a way out. There is always a way out. We can always choose life. Romans 8:13, the verse continues, talking about that sinful nature and how we don't have to follow what it says. It says, for if you live by its dictates, you will die. Anybody know Marie Kondo? Have you guys heard of Marie Kondo? If you're on Netflix, Marie Kondo, delightful little lady who's on there and encouraging organization of your homes. She's got this little method where she pulls everything into a room and says, does this give you joy? I don't know that's what her voice sounds like, but does it give you joy? If it gives you joy, you keep it. If it doesn't give you joy, you throw it out or you sell it or something, right? So just so you know, for Courtney and I, before there was Marie Kondo, we had Pastor Jessica Calmer. I remember we were going to move out of our apartment and move into an Airstream from the apartment. So grateful for that time. God did so many good things. But that is literally like emptying like a full duffel bag into your wallet and trying to like get it all in there. And so she came over to her house. She was like, okay, hey, do you love it? Do you need this? No, we're going to sell it. We're going to throw it out. Do you love it? Do you need it? We're going to sell it. We're going to throw it out. And listen, I'm a part-time hoarder. I am a part-time hoarder. There are things that I've kept for so long. I'm not gonna lie. There was it came up in that move. She pulled out this container, and inside of it was the trumpet that I played in middle school when I battled for the last chair because I was terrible and I didn't practice. That was what came out. And I kept it. It's in my house right now under my bed. I need some help, y'all. I need some help. But when you have one of those moments where you're taking stock of all your stuff, you're taking stock of all the things that you have in your house, at some point you're going to find some weird things that you don't recognize. You're going to find some stuff where you literally cannot remember, how did I get this in my house? Did I steal this? Was I sleep stealing? Like you will find some things that maybe someone in your family or some friend came and left one time and it's been in your house for 20 years. You'll find these things in there that you have no idea where they came from. You have no idea how it got there. And I believe that when it comes to our minds and it comes to our hearts, if we were able to take stock and really get a good look at everything that's inside of us, we would find some things in there that we don't know how they got there. We would find some lies that were formed from something someone said to us on the playground when we were in 6th grade. What they said about how we looked, and it cut us deep, and it's always stayed in there. We'd find some things that people have said to us, maybe in our family, maybe in your family. Some of you ladies, maybe in your family, there were certain roles for the ladies and certain roles for the boys. And things were said to you that actually put a limit on what you can achieve because you're a female. And that has settled in the bottom of your heart. You're not aware of it because you're a go-getter. You're pushing and you're trying to do all these things, but really at the heart of it is this need to prove something because you have this lie inside of you. If we took stock of our minds, took stock of our hearts, I think we would find a number of different things inside of us that were never meant to be there. These lies and half-truths that have buried themselves so deep inside of us, we don't know they're there. We don't know that they're there. But our lives wind up more often reflecting that lie than they do the truth of God's word. More often reflecting the lie that has been buried deep inside of us than what God has spoken over us. You know, I think about the fact that it's summertime. And church, tell me, be loud about it. Say what it is. If you don't spray your house in summertime, what happens? You get bugs, specifically spiders of the evil variety. They will wind up in your home. You'll be chilling on a Friday evening, and you will be just nice and cozy. Yeah, just nice and cozy in there and enjoying your life. And then a creepy crawly will crawl up your leg, and you will scream higher than you've ever screamed, grown men, and you will kill that thing. At least I will kill that thing. I'll scream higher than I've ever screamed in a manly way. Ah! Something like that. And I will freak out, and everything stops until that's dead. Until it's dead. We spend so much money on getting our houses sprayed, so much time and attention on making sure it's regularly done, so much effort into making sure that our home is safe, that there's no way for any of these creepy crawlers to get in. We spend all this time for our homes. But how often do we let lies just sneak into our mind and sneak into our heart? I'm reminded of this funny story in the Bible of Joseph. Joseph God spoke all these things over his life, what was going to happen to him. His brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery. God blessed him. He winds up in a position of authority in this ruler named Potiphar's house. And as he's in there, Joseph, he ate right. He did push-ups every morning, did a couple of crunches. He was fit. It was all solid. And so he caught the eye of Potiphar's wife. And so she comes at him. She's like, "Hey, boo. Hey, Jojo." Tries to give him a little some of that, right? And Joseph, I love this. What it says is he was so against any of that happening, so against ruining his integrity, so against dishonoring his boss, that he ran out of there. He fought so furiously to get away from this woman that he was buck naked. Like maybe he had some socks on. Maybe the socks stayed on. Everything else, gone. And he was just running, y'all. Now listen. You couldn't pay any of us any amount of money to run around naked. Well, okay, you couldn't pay many of us any amount of money to run around naked. But Joseph, he saw something that was threatening what God had blessed him with, threatening his life, threatening his position, threatening everything, and he ran. Why don't we fight that hard when it comes to protecting our hearts? Why don't we fight that hard when it comes to protecting our minds and what God has spoken over us? There are things right now. Some of y'all have struggles. You know what your struggles are. But you'll still allow yourself to do some things that have always been connected with those struggles. We'll still allow ourselves to go to some places that have always been connected with those issues. We got to run, y'all. Your heart and your mind working right, being the way that it should be, is so much more valuable than just your home. Who you are in God's eyes, your worth is immeasurable. Your worth is immeasurable. Why aren't we doing more to protect it? Why don't we do more to safeguard it? Proverbs 4:23 says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." We allow these lies to rest inside of us. And then we allow that lie, the lie that we allow becomes our guide. It begins guiding us through life. Maybe it guides you to dead relationships. Your marriage begins to fall apart because of the lie that you've never dealt with inside of your heart. It'll guide us to unhealthy and broken self-image. You can't look in the mirror without hating yourself because you're always comparing and believing this lie that you should be this or you should be that. It leads you to chasing after things that will never satisfy. You're meant for something more, but you're chasing small things. Luke 6:45 says, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. What you say flows from what's in your heart. Church, we need to be storing up in our heart the right things. We need to be storing up in our heart the right things. We've got too many of the wrong things, too many lies, too many broken ways of thinking, too many twisted ways of approaching life, of approaching meaning, of approaching self. We've got to fill up on the right things. We've got to fill up on the truth. God wants you to know you were bought for a price. When he sent his son, he wasn't giving half of what he had. He was giving everything. He was putting his best foot forward to save you, to fight for your freedom. You need to know that you are so loved by God, nothing you can earn. He's given that to you freely. You need to know that your Father in heaven calls you son or daughter. If your earthly father or mother did not claim you, God does. If they were disappointed in you, God approves of you. He is for you. He is on your side. He wants you to grow. He wants more for you. God says that you are more than a conqueror. So that tells me that regardless of the battle you face, you're going to win because of what God has spoken over your life. I'm out of time, so I'll close with this. Romans 8:13 says, but if through the power of the Spirit you put to death the deeds of your sinful nature, you will live. Walking in the freedom that God has called you to walk in is not something you can do on your own. That's a tragic lie that's found itself in a lot of Christian circles, that we think we need to pretend that we're holy, pretend that we're not messing up, pretend that we're not wounded, that we're not struggling. If that's in you, I want you to know that's a lie. That's not what you're meant for. You can't do it by yourself. You can't force it. This only comes from inviting God into every area, every thought. Letting God challenge the way that you think. Challenge the way that you've always looked at your life. Challenge the way that you've always looked at yourself. Allowing God into that space and saying, have your way. God, in my marriage, would you have your way? God, in the way that I talk to people, would you have your way? God, in my job, would you have your way? Lord, in the way that I think about the meaning of my life, what I'm here for, would you have your way? God, with my dreams, would you have your way? Allowing him into everything. And I love this, Philippians 2:12. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. We're celebrated in this culture for being independent, but we're of the kingdom. And so we don't run the way that the culture runs. We're not praising independence here. We need to be desperately dependent on God, on his Spirit working within us. He gives us the strength. He gives us the power. He gives us what we need. Hurdles that we couldn't cross, now we can cross. The mountains we couldn't move, God will move them for you. Chains you can't break, shattered in Jesus' name, as you're dependent, as you're open. Got to free your mind. The rest will follow. One last thing with that, and then I'll stop talking up here. Actually, would you stand up on your feet? Stand up on your feet so you can think I'm done. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. You ever thought about what happens when you are fully alive the way that God says you can be fully alive? Have you ever thought about what's going to happen when you live a life of faith that God has called you to live to its fullest? When you free your mind, remove off all those lids of lies and broken thinking. when you step fully into what God has called you to be, the world will see that and they will follow you as you follow Christ. Those in their own darkness, their own brokenness will follow you as you follow Christ. That's what's on the other side. That's what's at stake here, not just your heart, but the hearts of those around you.